Hey guys, so this is What If Deku Was the Lizard Part 1. Now, I'm gonna be doing about 4 parts to this What If. Now, if Coffee, the person that, requested this video, wants more than just 5, parts to this, 4 parts to this, because I'm probably gonna do more, because normally, when I don't like a What If, and it's a request What If, I do 2 parts to it, and stop it there. But if I like it, I just continue that series all the way through until I get to, the end of the anime for now in real life. So basically, Deku. Let's explain Deku's origin real quick before we get into the what if, because that's what I mostly do with all my what ifs. Now let's get into it. And basically, Deku isn't going to be born human. Now, hear me out. Deku ain't gonna be like a test subject. He ain't gonna be turned into a human. Deku's actually gonna be a quirked animal. Basically, Deku's gonna be born with, Komodo. Deku's gonna be born a Komodo dragon, but it's just one, little difference. Deku was born with a quirk. Deku's born a quirk Komodo dragon in his natural habitat. So Deku's not in like a zoo or anything. He's just in a natural land. Basically, Deku first develops, or people around him see that Deku has a quirk at a young age. Basically, Deku will be about, let's say, the average adult age for a Komodo dragon. Now, Deku's life expectancy is going to be boosted, because I don't know if Komodo dragons live longer than humans or they live less than humans. I'm gonna just Google that real quick. I was kind of wrong. Basically, Komodo dragons can live up to 30 years. So yeah. So basically, Deku's gonna have the life expectancy of a human on top of the life expectancy of a Komodo dragon, making Deku pretty, making Deku live pretty long. So Deku will be able to live about what's the life expectancy of a human? Deku will be basically live up to, I think it would be like 102.6 years. So that's gonna be pretty long for Deku. Yeah, 102.6 years. So that's pretty long for Deku. Now, basically, Deku also will have extra abilities as well. Basically, Deku's gonna be born a Komodo dragon, having multiple quirks that gave him the potential to become a human, and also the potential to learn and live as a human with a quirk. Basically, Deku is going to be born with a basically, as time goes on, when Deku's about 5 years old in Komodo dragon years, Deku when Deku's about 5 years old in human years, Deku's quirk will kick in. Deku's quirk will pretty much kick in, making Deku see changes around his body, making Deku walk on his hind legs more, and basically Deku's brain changing and evolving, making Deku smarter with time, making him as smart as a normal human, basically making Deku incredibly more intelligent, and also giving Deku more ideas to survive in the wild. Deku also had the anatomy of a human and a monkey and a Komodo dragon all mixed together. Basically, this was a mutation quirk, meaning that Azawa couldn't erase it. But Deku also had a couple of quirks along with his mutation quirk. Deku has the abilities of Lizard in canon in the comic books, and also a couple other abilities. Deku has superhuman strength, agility, senses, and speed, like Lizard, because Lizard is shown to be stronger than Spider-Man, because I think in the wiki, Lizard is stronger than Spider-Man, and that's a pretty big feat, because let's be real, Spider-Man ain't no chump. Spider-Man can really throw hands if he really wanted to. Like how Spider-Man straight up drop kicked and straight up did some punches to Thanos. Like no normal person without, a pretty hefty amount of strength could do that to Thanos. Basically, Lizard was strong enough to break through, Spider-Man's webs, even though Spider-Man was holding him down. And Spider-Man's been able to freaking stop a train with his webs. So, Lizard had to be doing a lot of force. So basically, Deku will be as strong as Lizard. Now, let's see, Spider-Man's feats, and let's, see how strong Lizard is. Now, basically, Spider-Man's been able to pretty much bench press or stop a trained by falling over or crashing with his bare hands, with not a lot of, pressure. Deku's been able to stop a whole entire private jet and be the brakes himself, like literally calculating all the estimated weight on his back as he's holding it and stopping it. So yeah, and Deku also, I mean, no, Spider-Man also was able to punch off, what was it, Scorpion's jaw clean off, and Scorpion was also wearing that super suit, or, I don't know, Scorpion's like super, he was like super, or he had super suit on, and that was pretty impressive, and that was superior Spider-Man, but still, it was still Spider-Man's body, so, yeah. So basically, yeah, so Spider-Man's, like, incredibly strong. And Spider-Man was able to lift a whole entire police car with ease, basically assuming everybody in the audience, me assuming that he was smiling under the mask as he was lifting the, police car, basically seeing that he was pretty strong. Basically him punching through middle armor, like, with no problem. Basically Spider-Man being incredibly strong. And Lizard being able to straight up fold Spider-Man for a pretty long time in fights. So I'm pretty sure Lizard is pretty strong if he's able to straight up, almost kill Spider-Man. The only reason Spider-Man's been able to get out of fights with Lizard is not because of, pure power or brutal force. It's just because of smarts. So yeah. So basically, Deku will also be able to. Deku's brain will also be supercharged. Deku's brain will slowly evolve into becoming farther and more stronger than the human brain, becoming smarter and more intelligent, and basically being able to see problems and solve them a lot more quicker, having enhanced intelligence, about genius level intelligence. Deku being smarter than pretty much anybody, including that smart enhancing quirk girl in the whole entire, what was it, provisional license exam. Now basically, Deku will have all these abilities and also have superhuman strength, agility, speed, reflexes, also razor sharp claws on his, razor sharp teeth and claws on his fingers and, uh, toes. Deku also being born like Deku's gonna be about 6'8", so Deku's gonna be pretty tall. Deku's also gonna be able. Deku's also gonna be able to crawl on walls and scale buildings. Deku's also gonna be able to, crawl on walls and all that other stuff. Deku's also gonna be able to. I'm gonna give Deku the ability to camouflage. Now, this is not a power the Komodo Dragon has, but it's just that I just think Deku will be pretty OP with the ability to camouflage himself. Now, Deku can do this, but only for 5 minutes a day. So, Deku has to be really careful with his, pretty much camouflage ability. And Deku can't use it for like a second. Deku, when he activates his camouflage ability, he has to use it for 5 minutes, or else he can't use his power ever again. So, it's pretty tough situation. So, yeah. Imagine you have to use your power for 5 minutes, or else you're gonna get your power taken away from you. That's pretty sucky. Now, basically, Deku has to be very, pretty much careful with his camouflage ability. Basically, Deku will be able to, I think it was, basically, Deku will be about looking like a normal, average human child with the lizard abilities at the age of 6. Basically looking like this. At this point, Deku hasn't grown his snout yet, and Deku's clothing, actually, he got this from, what was it? He got this from a abandoned clothing shop. Surprisingly, these clothes are actually clean, so Deku was pretty lucky. So Deku went around, discovering and pretty much being able to walk and getting to Japan. Surprisingly, getting to Japan, basically, walking around and pretty much living off scraps on trash cans. Basically, going back to his, animal roots, but also Deku pretty much being picked up from child services because they saw Deku multiple times on the road and never seen him go home. So they obviously took Deku in, and Deku looks human. Deku had a human personality and brain, but Deku still didn't know how to speak because, he's never taught how to speak because he's a Komodo dragon. So basically, Deku could talk to other Komodo dragons and communicate with them. And Deku also had the ability. Deku also had venom in his teeth as well. So if he ever bit somebody, and Deku could bite somebody but not inject the venom into somebody's body, so Deku could still bite somebody without killing them. So yeah. So the Deku's poison works kind of like this. It goes through your bloodstream pretty fast and pretty much attacks all of these cells that help you survive in your body. Basically, cutting off your oxygen supply and basically just burning your blood inside and out. Pretty much just killing you slowly, very painfully. It's basically the worst way to die from Deku. Now, basically, Deku basically be taken into child services, and Deku would look about, what was it, 10 years old. Deku, basically, at this point would be like 10 years old. Basically, Deku being taken into child services and put into foster care, but also being taught by a couple others, teachers. Eventually being adopted by Inko. Now, Inko's going to be a scientist in this canon, and basically, Inko's going to be taking care of Deku, and basically being interested in Deku, learning and going into his, Deku's biology, seeing that Deku's biology is like percents of animal and human DNA. Being, confused because normally quirks don't really register quirks as different DNA. Now, basically, Deku is pretty much she discovers that Deku was actually a Komodo dragon with the quirk to become a human or become humanoid. Basically, seeing Deku's abilities and testing them, and seeing Deku's increased strength, agility, speed, reflexes, senses, camouflage ability, limits to his camouflage ability, and also Deku had the ability to regenerate like Lizard. Basically, Deku being able to grow back his tail, but also being able to grow back limbs and arms and pretty much stuff like that, like chunks of flesh and all that other stuff. Deku be able to regrow limbs. Deku will also have a monkey, was a human biology, meaning that Deku had to wear, clothing. He couldn't just walk around in the nude like lizards do. So Deku had to wear clothing. So basically, Deku be having brown hair like in canon, but when as Deku grows older, Deku develops that his hair starts going away, but it's not going away fully. It's going in a way as like a mohawk type of spine type of hair, because his mohawk, basically Deku's hair grows into like a mohawk thing going down the center of his head, going all the way down to the back of his back, not going down to his tail, just going all the way down to his back. Now basically Deku goes into foster care and basically being taught by Inko, and Inko teaching Deku all she knows because she's like a top heading scientist. Basically, she works at Oscorp actually. So yeah, so basically Inko works at Oscorp, and basically Inko actually works on the top genetic, pretty much Inko's at the top at genetic research at what was it? Inko's at the top genetic researcher at Oscorp, basically becoming really close friends with what was it? I think it was no. Inko actually runs Oscorp because what was it? The Goblin does not exist in this canon. It's just Oscorp is just made for the intent purposes of setting up Deku's story. So basically, Deku is taken to Oscorp sometimes, basically being experimented on by his mother, not in that, weird, not in that, diabolical way, just being seen testing on Deku, seeing what his weaknesses are. The only weakness Deku has is his camouflage ability. Deku doesn't have any other weaknesses, because Deku can regenerate, and Deku pretty much Inko did do a little bit of a bionic, or like, what was it? A computer test, seeing and pretty much testing Deku's testing Deku's pretty much ability, seeing that Deku could possibly give his DNA to people and temporarily give people the ability to grow back their limbs and legs, changing the world of people without limbs. Also, Deku could use his DNA to give people their limbs back, but also giving them the ability to grow back their quirk limbs as well, and having their quirk the same exact way. Mean a pretty being pretty much very perfect to help people out. But Inko, at a young age, Inko pretty much already knew Deku wouldn't become a hero after she explained the whole entire hero thing to Deku, and Deku wouldn't become a hero. Basically, at this point, Deku's going to be about 13 years old, and Deku's being tested at this point. Basically, all of his powers already at full extent, but Deku not being as strong as Lizard at 16. Deku's gonna be able to bench press the equivalent of about let's say 6 monster trucks. So Deku's gonna be incredibly strong. Deku's gonna be like really strong. So yeah, so basically Deku so basically Deku Inko pretty much uses some of his DNA to do some other testing, but Inko, taking Deku back home, pretty much, being a pretty good mother, even though she's fueled by work, still being a pretty good mother. Basically, Deku is incredibly smart, so Deku doesn't really need that much tutoring, and Deku passes all of his classes, pretty much being actually in the same school as what was it, Inko and Ida. Basically, kids teasing Deku because Deku has a villain. Deku looks like he has a villain quirk because, he looks like a lizard. He looks like a lizard, and Deku has claws and teeth. And basically, Deku explained his quirk to everybody, and pretty much everybody looked at the fact that Deku had poison. So they obviously thought Deku, was a villain. He had a villain quirk. So some people just teased him, but Momo and a couple other students, let's say Momo and Mina actually didn't tease Deku because Mina had acid, and acid was kind of similar to poison. It was dangerous, but yeah. Basically, Mina did, get ties with Deku, but Deku didn't really, develop any feelings for Mina or Momo. Basically, becoming friends with another student in class that had a mutation quirk like Deku. Basically, this quirk quirk student being Froppy. Now, Coffee. I'm asking everybody in the comment section and everybody that's watching this, what should be the ship? Should it be Froppy because they both have mutation quirks similar to lizards or reptilians, or should the ship be what was it, Momo or Mina? Now I'm already doing a Momo ship with what was it? I think Deku. What if Deku had Spider-Man's powers, and also what if Deku was what was it? What if Deku was Nick Wilde, so from Zootopia? So basically, I'm pretty sure I'm done with Momo ships because I'm sure I'll be shipping like everybody in my router, in my what ifs, as with Momo. So yeah, so basically Deku, it's gonna be okay. So basically, Deku goes on with life, basically growing up to be about 16, and Deku's mutation quirk becoming full, thrust. Basically, Deku goes on, basically looking kind of like this, having a green skin, a tail, and lanky body parts, but also having a very muscular, body, being pretty, intimidating. And Deku having, the anatomy of lizard. Now, basically, Deku, is, a pretty outstanding student, being as smart as in his class. Basically, Deku being, a pretty praised in their class. Now, Deku goes on, basically signing up for UA, getting a recommendation from his mom, because his mom is very famous. So basically, Deku goes to, UA from recommendation, through recommendation, basically getting to Class 1A, running into Todoroki, Froppy again, and also seeing a couple other students from his school in UA, like Mina, Momo, and Froppy. Now basically, they sit down, and I haven't done a Froppy ship in a long time. Now, I'm pretty sure I did not ship Deku with Froppy from what Deku had the powers of Dino Squad. I did not ship that. I think I only shipped Deku with Ochaku because I haven't done that ship in a long time. So basically, Deku. Oh, sorry guys. So basically, Deku goes on. Basically, I think it was, yeah, Deku goes into UA, sits down in the class 1A, and pretty much Azal walks in the class after everybody quiets down. Azal explains to the class they're doing Quirk assessments, and they get off their lazy butts and they get ready. They get into their gym outfits or their gym clothes, and Deku's gym clothes are fitted to his, big stature and his height, being, 6 feet and 8 inches, I think, or it was 6'8", so don't know how that works. And basically, Deku, basically walks in there, and Azawa sees Deku's quirk is pretty flashy because Deku looks the most flashy out of this whole entire group. Seeing him pretty tall. Pretty much telling Deku to come over here and throw the ball. Deku grabs the ball and chucks it, getting a pretty good score, about 2 times higher than Bakugo's original score. Basically, everybody else gets the same score. For the long jump, Deku aces it, obviously. For the race, Deku gets about 3rd place. And for the, what was it? For the, grip test strength, Deku gets about, let's say, I think it would be about the same as Jubo Arms guy, but a little bit higher. So for the, what was it? The weight throwing test that I add in for my what ifs is basically Deku grabs the 500-pound weight and chucks it about 50 miles, pretty far. Now basically, Deku gets the top score, and basically, Deku gets about what was it? Deku gets about 2nd place. Bakugo gets 1st place, and basically everybody else gets about the same score but lowered down twice. So basically, Deku, sees Mineta. Mineta being scared because he thinks he's gonna get expelled, but Mineta does not get expelled and just gets teased with by Izawa. Basically, Izawa was saying that whole entire expelling thing at first because he wanted to see everybody at their fullest, and saying that I'm impressed with some people and looking at Deku, but I'm not impressed with some people. Looking at what was it? Looking at Mineta and a couple other students that don't have pretty good quirks, like Enji or whatever her name is, the Invisible Girl. But Deku, um, Deku goes on, and pretty much everybody's handed their syllabus and gets told to go back home. And pretty much Deku goes home, pretty much walking into Froppy, and Froppy pretty much having small talk with Deku, and Froppy basically asking Deku if he wanted to go out sometimes. So since her and Deku have a pretty good, chemistry, and Deku thinking about it, saying that, and pretty much, Froppy saying, it's okay if you don't want to go out with me. And pretty much Deku says, no, that's not what I meant. I just need to think about it. And pretty much, Froppy says, what, okay, and pretty much gives Deku her number and walks off the bus. Deku sitting there, pretty much smiling, and everybody looking at Deku saying, why is that lizard guy smiling? Deku stops smiling, because when Deku smiles, or smirks, it kind of looks sinister, but Deku just stops smirking, and gets off the bus, and walks, into his house, his house being like a penthouse type of mansion thing. Now this being Deku's house, basically being on like a cliffside or something like that. And basically, Deku walks into his house, basically being greeted by his mother. His mother getting off of work pretty quickly because she did, get some days off because of that huge scientific breakthrough she made using some DNA from Deku. Deku having consent from her, basically saying that it was okay for her to use his DNA. Basically, Deku sits down and pretty much does some homework and goes to bed, having dinner with Inko, and pretty much Inko, pretty much not telling Deku yet about what was it? She's dating somebody, but we're gonna get into that later. So see you guys later. Bye. As always, guys, have a blessed day, and subscribe and like and subscribe, and coffee. Keep on sharing your ideas because they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. And see you guys later. Bye. Deuces, and always, guys, have a blessed day.